Hey there, Python programmers, and welcome back to Brad Codes. I have an additional video on the guessing game because there's one thing we didn't get to in our last one, and it's definitely something we should definitely talk about and implement. And that's a helper function. So, real quick, something we didn't notice before, but let's say we're playing our wonderful game. What happens if we accidentally guess something that's not a digit, like the letter D? We get an error because, again, we cannot cast the letter D to an integer right here in line 19. So that's not ideal. What I'd like to do is make a little helper function to help us out with our guessing. So let's do that right here. We can simply call it guess. Really, all guess is going to need is the start and ending range passed into it. And again, that should be easy for us to do. And then this is going to be rather similar to the way you saw me do it if you watched the coding interview on using the input function. We're going to have a while loop. We're going to assume that we have a bad guess the whole time. And yeah. So while there is a bad guess, we're going to iterate. And again, we also want to handle getting that value error. And a great way to do that is with a try catch block or try except block. So we are going to try that same line of code. And honestly, we can just copy it up here because this is still what we want to do. We want to try this, although again, if the scenario happens where we might be creating a value error, we can now go ahead and accept that. Cool. And we are accepting. You always want to explicitly accept each and every possible error. So again, we're going to accept that value error. Let's go ahead and throw in just a little feedback. We need to enter number digits only, no letters. Something like that. Cool. Now, at this point, if we've gotten to this value error, we know we have a bad guess. The most important thing for us to now do is prompt the user for a new guess. There's a very wonderful keyword that will make us go to the very beginning of our while loop, skipping all code afterwards, and that's the continue one. Again, at this point, that's the most important thing we need to do. Now, we can add in a little more input validation here, and I think that'll be fun. We also could use an else block in this scenario. If our try block is successful, meaning again we got an integer, well, why not actually test to make sure it's in the right range? And again, we'll only enter this else block if our try block is successful. So this logic is going to work great for us. If our user guess is either, let's see, less than our start, right? Or if our user guess is greater than our end, that's going to be a problem. It's out of range. Why not tell our user that, hey, your numbers are out of range? And here's a nice F string. We probably want to do this dynamically anyway. Numbers need to be between, and again, we can just use our start and end variables. They make this so easy. Now again, in this scenario, we've guessed something out of the range. The most important thing to do is go guess again. We can use the wonderful continue keyword here as well. Now, if our try was successful, we didn't enter the accept, we also passed our else, we'll exit this, and at this point, I'm now happy we have a pretty good guess. So we'll want to go ahead and flip our bad guess boolean to now false. This will go ahead and stop this wonderful while loop. And then the last thing is outside of our while loop, we're going to need to return that user guess because now it's considered a good one. Cool. So that looks like a pretty nice helper function here. Last thing we're just going to want to do is instead of calling We're using the built-in input here. Let's take that out. Let's replace it with our fancy new guess. So we'll still want to hold it in a variable. We'll do user underscore guess equals invoking that guess. And again, we've got to pass it start and end. Cool. Now that we have our wonderful helper function in place, again, let's just go ahead and give our guessing game a try. So far, things are good. Let's make a legit guess. Cool. Let's make a silly guess. D. Hey, look at that. It handled it. We did not get an error. That stopped our game. Pretty cool. Trying a -1. Hey, look at that. Pretty awesome. Let's try 23. Totally looks like our error validation is working. So again, just a small improvement. Adds in a helper function, but again, that error stopping the game from playing, that's never a good thing. And we've totally fixed that. Even added a little error validation, again, making sure our user is only guessing in the range of numbers that we're playing with. Hope you enjoyed this extra video on the guessing game. Again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll make more games for you. Till next time, happy coding my Python program.